What's up, sports fans? Welcome to the Sports Opinions Podcast. This is episode number 16. I'm your host, as usual, Mr. Alexander Cuesta. I'm on Twitter at AQuestaNVN. Of course, Sports Opinions is on Twitter. Follow at SportsOpinion30. And today's going to be another fun episode, as they all are. With me is a very special guest, someone I've known for actually pretty long. I didn't realize how long I've known you, G-Money.
Oh yeah, long time.
It's been a long time, but he's a co-host of the Popcorn and Cleats podcast, which I'll let him tell you a little more about it. But it's Ryan G-Money Fasciano. What's up, Ryan?
What's going on, man? How's everything going?
Good. So tell him a little bit about Popcorn and Cleats. I've listened to a few episodes. It's really fun.
Yeah, so Popcorn and Cleats, we've been doing co-host Kyle Ball. You can find us both on Twitter. Mine is just at Ryan Fasciano. That's Fasciano. And Kyle can be found at Baller, BAHLER. So, yeah, I mean, we just, we both love sports. We both love film. He pitched the concept to me a couple years ago, and we originally started on Vassar College, WVKR. And we were doing that for a while, and then we went to the podcast, and we were doing both on live air and then on podcast, and then now it's just a podcast currently because I moved out to Arizona because that's where I'm at now, and just check it out. It's just we review a film every week. We talk about the biggest topics in all sports or whatever else is really running around in our minds. You could find the website popcornandcleats.com. That's not the and symbol, that's just AND. And on there we put all the podcasts up, all the different ways you can find it. You can pretty much find it on any podcast site. And we also have articles up there that we write and stuff like that. And then at Twitter, the Twitter is at Popcorn Cleats. So yeah, and then on Facebook even, we're at Popcorn and Cleats, and in that version, there's the and symbol. So it can get a little confusing, but it's not too hard to find us.
So if you hadn't noticed, they literally just hustle. These two, they're just constantly hustling. If you go listen to it, most sports fans like film. Not all film people like sports, but literally I think everyone has films that they do like, and these two guys, they're pretty diversified in what they like as well, and it's just fun to listen to what they have to say. So I definitely recommend going out and giving that a listen. But alas, this is a sports podcast. We don't talk about, we'll talk about film if we get off topic, which I frequently do. But we're going to go, and today we're going to talk about pretty much almost everything. We're going to do some baseball, some basketball, NFL. We're going to talk some other football, not college. We'll let us get to that. And we might even throw a little bit of tennis in there to throw a wrinkle so we don't only talk about the big ones. But
yeah, awesome.
Absolutely. We're going to start off. MLB Opening Day is right around the corner. Me and G-Money, we're both big Yankees fans. I'm actually wearing my Yankees shirt today. My wife's uncle got me a customized one with Jeter's number 2 and my name on it. It's pretty damn cool. But I know Yankees fans, don't kill me. We're not supposed to have names, but this is a customized one. But just talking about the Yanks, obviously, G-Money, we miss you out in New York, by the way. Being in Arizona, you're too far away, bro.
Hey, I appreciate that, man. I'm going to be coming back soon, hopefully in the next 2 months or so.
That's good. You definitely have to stop by and visit when you do come back. And you gotta meet my new daughter. I have a new daughter, G-Money.
I know. That's awesome. Congratulations on that. Definitely want to meet her.
Absolutely. She'll be a month on Monday. It's insane. It really is crazy.
Time flies, man. It's nuts.
It doesn't. But speaking of insane, the Yankees lineup is absolutely insane. Look at that transition. Smooth, right, G-Money?
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
But the Yankees lineup, I think everyone knows, it's not a secret that they have a vaunted lineup. It was pretty damn good last year, but their addition of Giancarlo Stanton might have made it the most feared lineup in baseball, I gotta say, in like the past decade. They made some smart moves trading for Drury and Neil Walker so they can keep they brought some of the younger guys down, Andujar and Torres, who had a lot of fanfare, but they went down. Drury got injured, so That doesn't do anything to their lineup, but what do you think that does for the Yankees at third base, Ryan?
Yeah, Drury got injured, and also I don't know if you just heard, Greg Bird also got injured.
Yeah, I saw an update on ESPN. Cashman said he's concerned about his foot, which really sucks because Bird seems like he's turning into a real injury prone dude, which isn't good for a pro prospect.
True, and they have a lot of faith in him. The whole Drury injury, I think, is look. It sucks when anybody gets injured, but I mean they're going to have Tyler Wade. They're going to have Ronald Torres right there. One of them will be able to fill his shoes. And of course, I mean, I think Neil Walker can also play second, but I think I'm sorry, third. I think that he's tagged in as basically the starting second baseman. So I don't think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna bother them too much. He's a bottom of the lineup guy anyway.
He is. And one question I haven't really put to anyone, but I want to ask you: how much longer does Brett Gardner have? This team is really young. He's definitely lost a step. He was a speed guy. He's still a good hitter. He's a great clubhouse guy. But with all the youth coming up, you have to think that there's going to be other leaders on this Yankees team besides him. Where do you think the Yankees go with Gardner in the near future?
Honestly, I think he's a lifer. I honestly think he's a
Wow.
lifer in the sense of, I mean, look, they tried to get rid of Jacoby Ellsbury, who's injured as usual,
Yeah, but there's a
and
contract difference there. Gardner's contract isn't massive. Ellsbury can't move because his contract's huge.
right, that's the reason they can't get rid of him. If hopefully they'll get rid of him this offseason or at the trade deadline or something. I doubt it, but they're going to try. They're always going to try because he's just not worth the money he's getting paid. So with that being said, I think if Gardner does lose a step, and Clint Frazier becomes a guy they think he could be, and we also have to remember Mike Trout's going to be available this offseason. So is Bryce Harper in the outfield, two big guns right there. I think Gardner just moves to the fourth outfield spot. I mean, I just think when you think about the Yankees, I think Brett Gardner is the type of player you think about. And maybe I'm thinking with my heart here, but I think he's going to be a Yankee for life, man. He's just done all the right things. He plays the game the right way. He's a Yankee true and true.
I would love to see him stay. And you mentioned Bryce Harper. I think the Yankees aren't going to give him his 400 million he wants. I think they'll throw an offer at him. I think he'll be in the 200, 250 million range because I think he's a good enough player to get that. But I don't see it being a mega contract. I think the MLB might be going away from those. I do love Gardner. I love him hanging around. But like you said, I think if Clint Frazier pans out, I think that they might go with him and possibly try and bring up someone else from that farm. Also, you mentioned Mike Trout. I would love to see Mike Trout in pinstripes. My thing with Mike Trout is, I don't think he's the type of guy that will want to join a mega team. I think he has so much pride in where he is. He wants to win over there with the Angels. He doesn't want to leave. So I just don't see Trout being the type of guy that in the free agency would really want to come to the Yankees. Even though it's home, I don't think there's an amount of money. I think he would want to be the underdog and win with an underdog team.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be with the Angels. I don't think they've done enough. I mean, yeah, they got Albert Pujols when he was, just steadily declining. But I mean, I don't think they've done enough around Trout to keep him there. I'm not saying he's going to sign with the Yankees, but I don't think he's going to be an Angel anymore after this. I think possibly even at the trade deadline.
We're going to talk about the Angels in a little more. We're going to some more depth about them, but I still want to stick with the Yanks a little bit. The rotation, we got a surprise last year with the rotation. They pitched much better than anyone thought they would. But, and they've been on the back burner this year. No one is really, highlighting them like they were last year as a weakness. Severino showed that he could be a legitimate pitcher. He needs to make the step to be an ace. Tanaka scares the hell out of me. Sabathia might have given us everything he had left. I hope he has more. Sonny Gray, he's iffy. Some guys just can't pitch in New York. The lights are too big. Jordan Montgomery is a guy that I could see becoming the third and second starter this year, which kind of scares me because that means either he's pitching out of his mind or the other three in front of him are really faltering. But then we have Chance Adams and Justice Sheffield that can really jump in, and all scouting reports say those two are ready. How do you feel about our starting rotation? Do you think it's going to be enough to get us the 5 innings that they need to get through, basically?
Oh yeah, yeah. To get through the 5 innings, absolutely. The only thing that scares me about the rotation is okay. Yes, Luis Severino was an ace last year, but he has to repeat it if for me at least to consider him an ace. I think he finished second in AL Cy Young last year. I might be wrong on that.
I think he did, but yeah, I'm with you. 1 year does nothing for me. You need to do this consistently. Like Sabathia was an ace because for almost a decade he was a guy that would go 8 to 9 innings every outing. Like,
Right, right. So we need to see another year from Severino. So with that being said, that means let's say Severino doesn't pitch like last year. He pitches, he's a solid guy. Then they don't have an ace. It's hard to win because Tanaka's not an ace. He gets paid like he's an ace, but he's not an ace. He can look at like an ace at times. He's not though. He's a nice number two. So let's say Severino pitches like a number two. You have Tanaka doing his usual thing, and then Gray, and then Sabathia. They're doing their thing. And then Montgomery is progressing. But then that means they don't have an ace, and that you can't win a World Series without an ace.
does Cashman kick himself for not going out to get a Gareth Cole aggressively, an Arrieta aggressively? One of these big guys, Alex Cobb, that could have been an ace because some of them are pretty damn young that could have developed. Would he be kicking himself in that sense that he wasn't more aggressive?
No, because I think this offseason I said if Tanaka opted out, then the Yankees should go after someone. But he was smart. His agent and him probably sat down and said, "Listen, dude, you're already making whatever $22 million. That's ace money. You're not an ace. If you want to think you're an ace, that's great, but you're not, and you're making ace type money. Stay with your contract." He did, and the Yankees should have retained him, and they did. Then I said they got 5 starters. They don't need to go after you, Darvish. I always thought if Tanaka did opt out, you got to let him go. He's not getting paid anymore anywhere else, and then you go after a guy like Arrieta or Darvish. But I think if their rotation is faulty by the trade deadline, then yes, they'll make a play for an ace, just like the Astros did last trade deadline with Justin Verlander.
Without a doubt. And, last question on the Yankees to tie it up. We know their bullpen is unbelievable. Chapman, Canley, Robertson, Green, Warren, Holder, Shreve. Every single one of those guys really holds their own. The question mark is Dellin Betances. He really struggled at the end of last year to the point where the guy would come in, and you would expect 9 straight balls. And it was tough to see. Can he be fixed? Are the Yankees going to hold on to him if he's not fixable?
It's amazing. It's amazing that we're even asking this, and especially you start talking about Brett Gardner and you start talking about Dellin Betances, and 3 years ago, Betances was their best pitcher and Gardner was their best hitter.
Yeah, it's ridiculous how time and youth. The fact that all the youth on this team, we're not even talking about Aaron Hicks in center field, and he was a guy that came on last year and was on fire before his injury. And, he wasn't even in the conversation, or Didi Gregorius, or all these other great players that the Yankees have.
True. So with Betances, I think the Yankees bullpen is so nasty that they don't even need him. I think if he's not pitching like they used to see him, they're going to ship him because someone else is going to sit around and go, "Oh, he might become that guy again."
Now, if he does come back and catch fire, do you still trade him so we can go close somewhere and get something great back for him? Because you have Green, you have Warren, you have Canley, you have Robertson, you have guys that throw straight cheese. You don't need a guy that throws 100. You have 3 of them.
True, but you can never have enough arms in the bullpen, especially if Severino doesn't turn into the ace that we think he could be. Then I think you hold on to Betances. But again, it matters who's available. If Mike Trout's available, the Angels go, Mike Trout's available, then yeah, you give up definitely Dellin Betances and whoever else. Probably.
Yeah, Dellin Betances. I'll give up Dellin Betances, Chance Adams, and Justice Sheffield. All 3 of them. They can all leave.
Right.
They can all leave, and Mike Trout will make a lot of things better.
Yeah, I mean, I'd give him up for Mike Trout. I'd give him up for Bryce Harper. I'd give him up for Manny Machado. I mean, all 3 of those guys. And I know you said none of these guys are probably going to get a $400 million contract. I honestly, in my heart, believe all three of them are worthy of 10 years, $400 million. I think they're all three of them are worthy of that contract.
Only guy I think is worthy is Trout, and that's not just New Jersey because I'm from Jersey. That's not a Jersey homer move. I just think Mike Trout's been the best player in baseball since the moment he stepped on the field. Because he plays for the Angels, he doesn't get as much notoriety as he should. But everyone else, Machado didn't play well last year at all.
I don't know. I'd still give him the money. I think he's quite the talent. One of the best third basemen in the game. And again, I mean, these whole things matters on if Andujar comes up and he plays well. I think Brian Cashman and Steinbrenner and the whole clan in the front office, I don't think they're going to want to give these guys contracts. But if they have to, they'll give one of them a deal. I mean, if you can upgrade from Aaron Hicks to Mike Trout in center field, you're probably going to do it. It matters. But if they win the World Series with Aaron Hicks center field, then
the Yankees will still make that move because they're the Yankees. They don't care. They have no loyalty unless you're Jeter. Like, let's be honest. They'll still make that move. If it's for Mike Trout, Cashman is cold-blooded. He'll make that move.
I honestly don't think so. I think it's a new era in New York. It's not when, George Steinbrenner was hiring and firing so many different managers besides, of course, Joe Torre, and also was just plopping out, anybody who was really good at any other team. Didn't matter how old he was. He could have been 40, and he'd still pay for him. I think it's new, man. I think they want to win with young guys. I think if they win a World Series with Aaron Hicks at center field and Aaron Hicks performs, it's good enough. He's hitting his 270 with 15 home runs and 60 RBIs. If he does that, I don't think they go after Trout. But it also matters on Gardner. If Gardner looks old, then they're going to go after Trout. Or if they could trade Ellsbury, then they're going to go after Trout. I mean, there's so many different things, but I honestly think they don't want him.
I can agree with you. Yeah, actually, the more you look at it, and I think one thing Brian Cashman did, he was, known for being a typical Yankee GM, go out, buy the best talent, and then over the past 3 years, the Steinbrenner sons both said, you know what, Brian? Go be a GM. Do real GM stuff. Since then, I think Cashman's been a top 3 GM, right up there with Theo, right up there with any other great GM you can think. The moves he made, he turned one of the worst farm systems into the best in 2 years. It's insane.
Brian Cashman has been, obviously besides Theo Epstein, Brian Cashman's been consistently the second best GM in baseball, even when Steinbrenner, because remember, just George Steinbrenner told him to buy players. That wasn't his call. That's what George Steinbrenner told him to do, and he did that. Now the Suns are telling him to do other things, and he's succeeding at that. Brian Cashman's a hell of a GM, man. I'm a huge fan of him.
He is. And you know what? And it's funny, we went through a whole Yankees conversation without mentioning Gary Sanchez and Aaron Judge. So I'm just going to mention Gary Sanchez and Aaron Judge are really good players. And that's going to wrap that up with a bow because everyone knows how friggin' good they are.
Yes. I am still doubtful on both of them.
It's funny. I'm less doubtful on Gary Sanchez. Besides offensive side, I think that he can be more consistent than Aaron Judge. I think he has a more consistent eye for the ball. Where Judge is pretty much a feast or famine type of guy.
Yeah, no, well, that's just true, because especially just how big he is. Stanton's going to be the same way. They're going to strike out a lot. They're going to hit a lot of home runs. Here's the thing, though. We've only seen one great year from Aaron Judge. We don't know. This past year could have been his greatest year ever. We don't know. And let's say it is, and let's say he hits 45 home runs. That's phenomenal. That's great. But it wouldn't surprise me if Aaron Judge hits 25 home runs this year. It wouldn't surprise me.
Best comparison for him, I think he could turn out to be a Dave Winfield type of guy, where he's, you're going to get a good amount of home runs, you're going to get a good amount of ribbies, but he's always going to strike out. He's more athletic than Dave Winfield was. He could play the field. The guy can run. But I think that's Dave Winfield was a feast or famine. He was going to hit you a bomb or he was going to strike out. There wasn't that much in between.
Right. But it's just, Aaron Judge has the capability of hitting 60 home runs.
Winfield had it, but he was never going to do that.
Right. So, and also with Gary Sanchez, I'm telling you right now, he's the best offensive catcher in baseball. He could throw out people with the best of them. Blocking ability, he's the worst.
I've heard that he's lost some weight and he's moving better, and I'm hoping that all those things are true.
If it doesn't, I'm telling you right now, if it doesn't get better, the Yankees will have no problem moving him.
Well, Austin Romine is a really serviceable. He could start. So for most other teams, Austin Romine starts. So I think they would have no problem. The Yankees have had a lot of really good catchers come through their farm, so I think they're really comfortable with a lot of the guys.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Gary Sanchez gets moves if his blocking ability doesn't get better. I mean, they have so much offensive talent already. I guess we also got to see what happens with Greg Bird's injury. But I mean, if Greg Bird is healthy, he's hitting, we like what we're seeing. Sanchez isn't doing it behind the plate. So many wild pitches. I think he had like 16. He had 16 pass balls last year. Which was definitely the most in the majors. And if that happens, look, this team is way more about analytics now.
Maybe they try him out at first. Maybe they see if he's athletic enough to scoop a ball. Because that could be, if he can't catch, if he could play first and still bat, and he's a serviceable first baseman, they might do that.
Yeah, or they can move Stanton. Because Stanton's only 28. They can move him to the outfield and move Sanchez to DH. There's a lot of things they could do. There's a lot of things they could do. But, it's just he might not be a catcher for long. Let's put it that way.
He might. And as Yankee fans, me and you are super high on the Yankees, but we have to acknowledge there's other teams in the AL that stand in their way.
Right.
Absolutely, the Houston Astros. Jose Altuve just re-upped with them, and he was the MVP of the AL. They signed Gareth Cole, which is massive, adding him to Verlander, Keuchel, McCullers Jr., and Morton, so that rotation's as fearful as ever. And they still have Carlos Correa, who could become the best player in baseball soon. He is unbelievable. They have a lot of depth. They're still a really good team. Then you have another team in the Cleveland Indians, who are another team that their pitching is great. They have Tito still as their manager, Terry Francona, who's one of the best managers in baseball. Francisco Lindor is still there. They've done enough. Their pitching staff is great. And then you also have the Angels, who we talked about, who I think could also challenge. They have Mike Trout. They have Justin Upton. They have Calhoun. Shea Ohtani was the big free agent overseas guys. He's a Babe Ruth type guy. The dude can pitch. He's penciled in for third in their rotation. And he's also a DH. They're going to bat him every once in a while, too. Out of those three teams, who gives the Yankees the biggest headache?
Oh, the Astros. The Astros are they're the best team in the AL, if you ask me. Getting Garrett Cole was just huge, man. That's a guy who's a number 2, at times can look like an ace, and he's going to be their number 3. Just look at the rotation. It's going to, Verlander, Keuchel, Cole, McCullers Jr., Charlie Morton. It's just dirty.
And when McCullers Jr. is on, I think he's actually has the best stuff out of all those guys. McCullers Jr., I've seen him. He is just absolutely nasty when he's on.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And also, you just have one of the best players, best second baseman in the game in Altuve. They got the best shortstop in the game in Correa. It's they still got guys like Springer and Reddick and Gaddis and all these guys. I think they're going to repeat. I think they're just too good. I don't know how you're going to beat them.
I completely and totally can see them repeating. I think the Indians are still hungry. They have Kluber, they have Carrasco, the starting double that can get you 2 wins easily. Encarnacion is still DHing. I think that the Indians are also another team. They match up really well against anyone with that pitching as well. So there's them. I agree with you. I think the Astros are probably better. I think the Yankees, if their starting rotation holds up and each of their guys can get either 25 to 30 starts and give us 16 to 20 quality starts, I think that they are actually a better team if their starting pitching holds up, just because that bullpen's so dominant. But besides that, do you see that if the rotation holds up, the Yankees are better? Do you agree or no?
If their rotation holds up I still think the Astros are better because also we got to factor in. I mean, you haven't even mentioned them, but I think they're still going to be pretty good. Is the Boston Red Sox? There's a chance the Red Sox win the AL East. If they win the AL East, that means the Yankees are a wild card. That means they play one game against the other wild card team, and anyone can win one game. That's why I hate it. It's not a series. Anyone can win one game. Anybody can beat anyone.
See, you hate it, and I love it because I love the fact that they're still giving divisional winners the right, especially in baseball where there's a million games and you legitimately have to go through your division. It's not like football where you play them twice or, basketball, even basketball, you're playing everyone. Where in baseball, what do you play, 19 games or something like that amongst your division opponent, each division opponent? So I think you are getting rewarded for battling through a marathon and winning your division. And then you know what? If you weren't good enough to win your division, you had 162 games to do it. You do only deserve one game. I don't, and asking the players to play a 3-game series even, potentially 3 extra games, that's going to kick their ass, and it's going to be a real unfair advantage for who they play.
Oh, no. I don't even – I understand what you're saying. I think they should just go back to 4 teams make it.
Oh, I don't know. I love the wild card because I hated the coin flip. I think there were a few years where it was legitimately like they looked down a few stat lines, and then if it didn't work, they did a coin flip. I hated that.
Okay. Well, that's fair. I mean – yeah, I just think so. Like I said, if the Red Sox win the division, the Yankees are playing one game against whoever. Then there's such a chance that they don't even make it past that. Especially if Severino's not an ace and they're going up against, let's say, I think Seattle Mariners are going to be pretty good. I think they're going to be a playoff team. So let's say they're going up against the Mariners and it's Felix Hernandez versus Luis Severino. One game. The Mariners might win that game.
And yeah, that is scary because King Felix, if it is King Felix, he's a strikeout king. And one thing the Yankees lineup is going to do a lot this year is strike out. That's just a fact. So It does bode difficult. We talked about the Angels a little bit. They did get the prospect, Shohei Ohtani. What are your expectations for him in his rookie season?
I think he's going to struggle. I mean, it's a different world, Japan and the MLB. I think he might come around, and be a decent player. I hope he is. I root for everybody to be successful in their craft. I mean, I don't know if he's ever going to turn into an ace. I don't know if he's ever going to turn into a guy that can hit 40 home runs. I think if he could become a decent starting pitcher and play DH a couple times a year, then I think he's a success. But I don't know. I think this year he's definitely going to struggle, and there's going to be a lot of critics around him. He's been struggling in spring training.
He has, but there was another Japanese import that struggled in spring training, and he's ended up being one of the best players in the history of baseball. Ichiro Suzuki was not good in spring training. And what did he do his rookie year? He just won a Rookie of the Year and an NL MVP. So
No, I totally agree. I knew you were going to bring up
spring training is buckus. I hate spring training. I hate preseason anything. I've never been a fan of taking any merit in what actually happens besides injuries.
Right, that's fair. I'm kind of the same way. I mean, I just think Ichiro and Ohtani are totally different kinds of players, though. I mean, Ichiro's arguably the greatest hitter ever.
Ohtani's just a different player from anything I think we've seen.
Well, yeah, because, what do they call him? They called him Babe Ruth over there, right?
Well, because he was. Any guy that can start and also DH and hit home runs, that's what Babe did.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, yeah.
But Babe didn't do it in the same season. That's a big myth. Babe, usually he would switch positions via the season, which is different than what Ohtani's attempting to do. Ohtani's attempting to keep his hand-eye coordination on point while also keeping his pitching mechanics going. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Angels keep him to one thing eventually. Keep him a pitcher or keep him a hitter.
I can't disagree with them. I can't disagree with them at all.
Yeah. It's not going to happen this year. It's not going to happen for a few years. Let's say they're trying to figure out what he's really good at, what he's best at. And once they do, they might just say, hey, we need you here most.
And they're also not going to waste this publicity chance. Why waste the publicity chance of, watching this Japanese star attempt to pitch against the Yankees lineup, but then the next time they play the Yankees, he's going to try and hit Luis Severino, has been on a hot, you know what I mean? Like, the
Yeah.
storylines that are just built in with this are unbelievable.
Oh yeah, but also the critics are going to be coming real quick.
Absolutely. Well, there's critics everywhere. You can't please all of them. Now,
True.
looking at the other side of the coin, the NL. Three teams that I picked out that have a chance at making a run at the NL championship. The Cubs, the Dodgers, the Nationals. All three of these teams have been nasty for a little while. The Cubs, obviously, they have Bryant, they have Addison Russell, they have Rizzo, Schwarber. A lot of really good players. LA has the reigning NL MVP. But did Bellinger win it? Or no, he didn't, right? He was the rookie of the year.
Yeah, the NL MVP last year was Stan.
Yes, it was. Wow. Wow, I'm a Yankees fan, everyone. And yeah, holy crap. But Dodgers, Cody Bellinger was the rookie of the year. I know that. They have Seager there. They seem a little bit older when I'm looking at them. They have some young guns, but they are good. Yasiel Puig is still remaining a starter, which is weird because he came on as the hottest guy in baseball and then really petered, did some time in the minors, and now he's just kind of back as a player. And then you have the Nationals, who are just the Nationals. They're really good. They're basically what the Colts were for a really long time. They're regular season horses. They have great players, home names in Bryce Harper and Daniel Murphy. But when time comes, they always shit the bed when it comes into the playoffs. Out of those three, or anyone else you want to throw in, who's your favorite to come out of the NL?
I like the Cubs. I think their team is just too stacked. Kyle Schwarber. I know you don't take too much stock into spring training, and I really don't either. But I mean, Kyle Schwarber has been looking nasty, and if he's on, you throw him with Bryant and Rizzo and all those other guys.
Can't forget about
I
Murph.
think
Daniel Murphy is the lost. No, Murphy's on. I'm looking at the Redskins depth. The
the
Nationals depth chart.
Nationals.
Sorry
Yeah.
about that. I was actually going to talk about them in a second, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I got the Cubs. I think they're going to come out of the NL. I think the Nats are going to win the East. Cubs will win the Central. Dodgers will win the West. Now, I wrote this out, but he just got injured, Madison Bumgarner. But I thought the Giants would be a playoff team. Now I'm not so sure with his injury. I know this is going to shock everyone. I think the Mets are going to be a playoff team.
You know what? It's funny that you said that. My wife's family, they're all Mets fans. My father-in-law and brother-in-law, and I said to both of them that the starting lineup, obviously, I think Vargas getting hurt kind of sucks because I thought he was going to take Wheeler's spot as the fifth man. But they still have Lugo, who again, neither of us take stock in spring training, but Lugo has looked really good. He has experience starting, and they still have
Right.
Gazelman to fall back on, who wasn't great, but Gazelman did come on strong 2 years ago. He might have fixed some things. The new manager, Mickey Callaway, he came on super soft, but he's been saying some things that make me seem like he has the right approach. He's starting to say, like, playtime's over. We're going to be professionals. We're going to pitch professionally. We're going to do things right, which we haven't heard out of the Mets in a long time. They've been a little bit of a circus. Even though I like Terry Collins, I thought he was a decent manager. He wasn't what the Mets needed. I feel like he's going to kind of rein in the young talent that they have there. And I feel like as much as he was like, we got to care for the players, he also seems like a no nonsense guy at times. So I agree with you. I think the Mets are a wild card team. I'm going out there and saying I think the Mets are completely a wild card team as long as the injuries stay away.
Yeah, and then this kind of ties in to the Indians as well, because I think the Indians lost a huge locker room presence in Jay Bruce,
Yeah.
and then now the Mets have him. I think Jay Bruce is a locker room guy. I think also the Mets have Adrian Gonzalez, and I think those guys are going to help the young guys
And
out.
Todd Frazier. Todd Frazier's over there too. He was a great locker room presence
Right.
for the Yankees, and now he loved to stay in New York. He's a Jersey guy. And yeah,
Right.
the Mets have a lot of leadership, and they don't have to rely on Yoenis Cespedes as the leader anymore, or David Wright, who's not playing.
Right. And also, I mean, just to tie in, because we're big Yankees fans, I think now that Todd Frazier's a Met, and now that Andujar and Torres got sent down, I think the Yankees now feel horrible that they didn't re-sign Todd Frazier.
They might, but I also think they wanted to go younger, and I think they were bringing in Stanton, and I think they want the Aaron Judges and the Didi Gregoriuses and some of the younger guys to kind of take the mantle and be the locker room guys and be the leaders. When you have a Todd Frazier there, he's your leader. He's your emotional leader. He brings you through. And even, and I think maybe like him and Brett got along, but he kind of took a little bit of Brett's leadership power as well. So I think they kind of did that for a clubhouse type of thing. As much as he wasn't a bad clubhouse guy, kind of to give the reins back to some of the other guys there.
Okay, yeah, no, I can understand that. I just think now that the two of them, Andujar and Torres, aren't around, or right now they got sent down. I think Frazier's better than Neil Walker or Brandon Drury or Ronald Torres or Tyler Wade, and but whatever. But yeah, back to the Mets. I mean, also just you got to shout out the Mets rotation. I mean, Syndergaard, DeGrom, Matz. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with Harvey, and then it's probably going to be Lugo at the end there. I mean, that's going to be really good.
And we could talk about Famiglia closing. Famiglia, before his injury, Famiglia is a legitimate closer. The rest of their bullpen is okay, but Famiglia is legitimate. So I think that, it's underrated. People haven't talked about him, but he's a legitimate player.
True. I totally agree. I think the Mets. A lot of people are high on the Phillies
because they made moves. They made some splashy moves, of course.
Yeah, but I think the Mets will finish second in that division, and I think they'll be a playoff team.
Only thing that scares me about the Mets, they have a lot of power and a lot of home run hitters in a pitching-friendly park. I've been to Citi Field plenty of times, especially with my family being, Mets fans, and also Citi Field's a nicer field for fans. I've said it plenty of times. I'm a diehard Yankees fan, but the new Yankee Stadium kind of sucks.
That's totally agree.
Citi Field's awesome.
Way better.
Their fan section in the back, the two beer gardens, all the food. That they have Barbecue Red there. They have Shake Shack, and I think they're switching it up and putting some other big names there. I don't know exactly, but I think they kind of switched up some of the beers that they're carrying, and they actually, and it's funny that everyone rips on the Wilpons, but they're the one team in New York that actually cares about their fans, which is weird. It's a weird kind of dichotomy there.
Well, I think they got to, I hate to say this, but I think they got to care about their fans a little bit more. You should always care about the fans because that's how they're getting paid. But I think they got to care about the fans a little bit more because the team's just not as good.
They're not. And also, the Yankees just have legacy fans that'll never stop going. That's just the bottom line. And they have rich people that they cater to. The Mets don't have the rich fan base. The Yankees are the glitz and the glam. They're the Lakers. They're the Cowboys, of the MLB. They're and the Dodgers. The Dodgers always have their famous fans. So it's kind of that. They're the class of the MLB. Unfortunately, for all other fan bases, it's just the truth.
True. Very true. So who do you have coming out of the NL?
NL, I actually, to the chagrin of Mets fans, I think the Nats do it. I really think that Harper is going to play his ass off, and Harper is going to be the NL MVP because he wants that $400 million. I think he's going to hit somewhere near 40. He's going to have over 100 ribbies. He's going to play great in the field, have a Gold Glove caliber year. And we're going to see a different Bryce Harper. I don't think we're going to see the brash guy that people perceive as a jerk. He's still going to have fun, but I also think he really wants to be a Yankee as well. So I think he's going to really do everything he can to be a great player, show that he could be a clubhouse guy, and lead the Nats into the championship.
And who do you have them beating? Who's coming out of the AL?
I think it's the Yanks, and I don't think that they're going to win. I think they're going to make it, but I think the Yankees clinch, and the only thing that can stop the Yankees for me is that rotation. And if the Yankees do falter, then the Astros come, and the Astros repeat. I don't think the Nationals are good enough to win. I think they're good enough to get there. I think both the Yankees and Stros are better than the Nats.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Interesting.
So now that we have that out, and who do you have winning it all?
I got the Astros. I got the Astros over the Cubs.
Beautiful. So now there we go. Everyone that's recorded, we can put it down in writing somewhere. G-Money and Cuesta's picks.
Yeah.
And we're going to jump right over to the NBA. Now we're going to talk first. The Warriors are a really injured team right now, especially, as I was writing this itinerary out for what we were going to talk about today, Steph Curry didn't go down again. He just went down. It was his ankle before, which he says not 100%, but he's going to play through it. And then just last night, JaVale McGee lands on his knee, and he has an MRI injury. I just saw the update. He'll be reevaluated in 3 weeks. That's 3 weeks without him. Draymond is still sore from getting kicked in the groin. Kevin Durant's not there. Klay Thompson's hurt. Warriors are in trouble in terms of record. They're going to be probably still pretty banged up. There's only 11, 10 games left. Does this make the path for the Rockets a lot easier to take the West and win a championship this year?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think the Rockets. Look, I think if Curry is bad, it matters how bad Curry's injury is.
Over
Let's say
Durant? Curry over Durant, he's more important?
Oh, he's dude. It's not even close. Curry is the most important. Draymond Green is the second most important. Then Durant. It's not even. Curry is so much more important to the Warriors than Kevin Durant is. It's not even close, if you ask me.
I tend to agree, and I one thing I do love, keep Warriors, keep doing your best to put Klay Thompson in the back burner. Please put him in the back burner, make him feel unwanted, so when his contract is up in 2 years, he can come to my friggin' Brooklyn Nets. I want Klay Thompson more than you know to be the focal point of the Nets.
No, I mean, I'm a huge Klay Thompson fan. I think he's the best pure shooter in basketball. He's got the prettiest shot in basketball. Let me put that. I mean, obviously Curry's.
I think he's going to go. I think Clay's going to have some Harden syndrome where he's going to want to prove that he can win on his own, and I think that's going to cause him to leave the Warriors.
Yeah, but the thing about Klay is so different than Harden is Klay can't put it on the floor like Harden can.
But Clay can play defense like Harden can't.
Oh no, I mean Clay's one of the best defenders in the league. That's not a problem. But he's a I don't want to call him a 3-and-D because that might be insulting because he is a superstar. But I mean, he's a 3-and-D that could do a little bit more. He's an elite 3-and-D that could do a little bit more than that.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, but I mean, look, if Curry's injury is like 2016, where he's just a little off. Now they have Kevin Durant, so the odds are they'd still beat the Rockets. But if Curry's injury is worse than that, then I think the Rockets have a big chance. But also Durant's injured, Green's injured, Thompson's injured. If all these guys are battling injuries, then yeah, I mean, this is the hardest. The Houston Rockets are probably the best team the Warriors would ever have to deal with since they've become this unstoppable machine. So I think, yeah, the Rockets have a really good chance to come out of the West.
I agree. I think the Rockets come out of the West even though the Warriors are healthy. Honestly, I just think the way that they're playing, and I think Chris Paul is the factor. And it's really because Chris Paul's the number 2 option. And the rise of Clint Capella has been insane. Clint Capella was a bench big who just got a starting spot, and all of a sudden he's blossomed to a legitimate member of a big 3, which it's watching his rise is awesome. And Chris Paul not having all the pressure on him makes it even better because you see the ridiculous facilitator he actually is when he doesn't have to do all the scoring. So I really think the Rockets are, the team to beat. Now, looking at 2 other teams out of the West, Portland, Oklahoma City. Portland's been on a tear. They lost the recent game to the Rockets, but it was an absolute war. Dame Lillard is putting on a show. CJ McCollum is, playing the Batman and Robin. He's Robin really well right now. Does Portland have a chance to, make an upset in a 7-game series? OKC, if they pull it all together, I think can compete with all of them. Do you think either of those teams have a shot against the Warriors or Rockets?
I mean, look, I think Portland right now will probably lose in the second round to Golden State. OKC, they'll lose in the second round to Houston. I mean, that's what it looks like at this point. Yeah, I think OKC is made for the playoffs, but the thing is, it's just Houston and Golden State are just too good, man. And same with Portland. I mean, look, they're a nice team. I think they still. I wish they went out and got like a guy like Paul Millsap to play the 4 position. But I mean, they just don't have a strong enough team. Man, it's just as simple as that. I don't think Portland. Look, I think Portland could push Golden State to 6 games. I think OKC could push Houston to 6 games, sure, but I don't think they beat them.
And just, if anyone in San Antonio is mad at me, I'm pulling the Spurs out of the conversation because if Kawhi Leonard refuses to play, you guys are done. LaMarcus Aldridge is a B-plus superstar. He's not. I'm not even going to give him an A anymore. I never actually thought LaMarcus Aldridge was all that. But if Kawhi Leonard isn't playing and refuses to play, number one, that's really bad. Number two, that's a detriment. That's a real black eye on Pop, who has been, accredited as the greatest coach in the league. If you're the greatest coach in the league, people want to play for you. That's one thing. People want to play for the great ones. So I think that hurts Pop's legacy if Kawhi refuses to play. So I'm taking them out of the conversation. If Leonard doesn't play, the Spurs are out, right?
Have you ever heard my hot take on Kawhi Leonard?
No. What's your hot take?
My hot take on Kawhi Leonard is he is not a player built for the Spurs organization. I've never believed he is.
I think he's a Laker. I think he has more flash and pizzazz than people give him credit for.
I think he's an ISO player. I think he's more of an ISO player. I think when he's on the court, I think the Spurs just give it to him. He ISOs, and he kind of ruins the whole system they built. The beauty of Tim Duncan was that when they needed buckets, of course, Timmy got them. But also at the same time, he could easily play in the Spurs system. I don't think Leonard can play in the Spurs system. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's one of the top 5 players in the league. I just don't think he works in the Spurs organization. I would not be surprised that if they traded him. It wouldn't surprise me one bit.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. And, I never really thought of it that way, but, more I think about it, he does. He's a stop ball type of guy. He moves it more than a Carmelo does, but anyone does. But he is a guy where they kind of give it to him and spread out. So, and that really is a detriment when you have a guy like Tony Parker on the floor, who even at an old age can give you 20 a night if he wanted to. So yeah, the Spurs. But I think without Leonard, the guy is still a top 5 in the league talent. So without him being on the floor, the Spurs are done. And speaking of a guy who would kill a team if he's not on the floor, LeBron, who I feel like has played every game this year, is, putting Cleveland on his shoulders like he always does. It seems like it doesn't matter the talent around him. He puts everyone on his shoulders. He's still playing out of his mind. The team still has some shaky games. You have teams like the Celtics and the Raptors who are playing at a real high level still, even though the Raptors should have lost to my Brooklyn Nets if the Nets can close out a game. I digress. But is LeBron enough to hold off? And I mean hold off in the playoffs because they're third right now. They don't care about seed. Is he going to be enough to basically beat these two teams alone, or is it a year where we see Celtics and Raptors each have a shot at the finals?
Do they have a shot? Well, I mean, Kyrie Irving is going into whatever non-invasive knee surgery. There's no timetable for him. And that hurts. And then the Raptors have had no health problems all season long. They're completely healthy. But
G-Money, I got to say, I do enjoy the fact that you liked my tweet about all you have to do is whisper in DeRozan's ear, it's a playoff game, and he'll go away.
That's true. And that's the other thing. I mean, that's what I'm going to get at here is the fact is with the Warriors, all their injuries, with how shaky James Harden and Chris Paul could be in the playoffs, Irving being injured now, and still no Gordon Hayward on the Celtics, and there's just not a lot of offense on that team. And with the Raptors, how crappy they play in the postseason, all signs are pointing to LeBron. He's the one consistent factor right now in the NBA of those 5 big teams. And, I mean, look, the Cavs just beat the Raptors 132 to 129 without Tristan Thompson, without Kyle Korver, without Larry Nance Jr., without Rodney Hood, without C.D. Osman.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot.
And they still beat a fully healthy, everybody played in that game, Houston Raptors ball club. I think, honestly, the biggest threat to LeBron in the East right now are the Philadelphia 76ers.
They are, and if they put it all together, because they have LeBron Light and Ben Simmons, and it's just no way about it. But I'm
Mhm.
also going to give you a hot take that I've talked about. I wanted to put it in article form, but never really gotten down how to write it onto the blog. Um, the reason why everyone talks about it's not difficult to see. We all agree the West is a more difficult conference, and that's not even a secret. The reason I have always thought that the West is more difficult because nobody wants to go through LeBron. If you hadn't noticed, all the guys in the East are pretty homegrown. No one wants to go there free agent wise. No one really wants to get traded into the East if they're a superstar. Every single superstar would rather go to the West and try and get through Durant, try and get through Curry, try and get through Westbrook, because even though you have to get through all those guys, it's still easier than trying to beat LeBron in 7 games. So I think that the LeBron factor in the East, the fact that he hasn't left the East his whole time there, has just made the West even stronger. Do you agree that the LeBron factor just keeps the West at power?
Oh yeah, I mean, I never really heard that take before, but that's an interesting one. Yeah, I think LeBron factor absolutely. I think definitely teams want to avoid him. And, yeah, you're right. Most of those guys are homegrown in the East.
Yeah, you look at it,
I
you
mean,
have, John Wall, Bradley Beal. I still think Kemba's a superstar. I hate what they're doing to him in the narrative. Kemba's a friggin' superstar. I love Kemba Walker. But you have Kemba, Giannis Antetokounmpo, even Lowry DeRozan. Kyrie's the only one that's left, but he was already in the East, and I think he kind of did it as a prove it to LeBron that he could beat him. Gordon Hayward is a borderline superstar. He was going to be a piece, so I don't count him. But and even the Sixers guys, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, none of them traded there. They were picked. Yeah, so, and I think at the first chance they'll leave. No one wants to play LeBron, even though he's older now.
no, yeah, he's older, but I mean, he's playing at such a high level, especially offensively. I mean, you can say what you want about his defense. It's probably not as good as it once was, but it's still elite. And but I mean, just offensively, I mean, you throw shooters around him, he's going to make all the right decisions.
Yeah, and
And but
LeBron, go ahead, G Money. Sorry.
no, I mean, I'm just saying, and what you're saying is probably correct. I think most guys they're never going to admit it, but most players are probably want to stay away from him.
And and there's always the argument about whether LeBron is the greatest player of all time or not in terms of like success. There's could definitely be debated, and that's really whether or not you like the guy. Me personally, from what I've seen, LeBron James is probably the best basketball player we've ever seen. In my lifetime, obviously. Even though I've seen Jordan play, because the difference between LeBron and Jordan is LeBron is a top 5 player at all 5 positions. If he focused on being a center, he'd be the most dominant center. If he focused on being a four, dominant four, just a point guard. He already is the best point guard in the NBA in my eyes because he is the point guard of that team. So, and even when Kyrie was there, he was the point guard of that team. So for me, just his dominance as a basketball player and the fact that I feel he's top 5 in every position already, just to me, LeBron's just unbelievable.
Oh no, he is, and the stat I said it on Twitter. The stat that he just put up, where he had 17 assists and no turnovers. I don't remember what game it was, and that was the first
I think it
time
was like two
someone.
days ago. It was like a recent game where he's supposed to be coming into the twilight of his career, and he's just finding ways to be better.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. He's a basketball genius in the sense of, he knows what's going to happen before every play. He states that. I'm starting to believe him. He says he can go back and remember plays and games and just in his head, which is just like that's not like. I mean,
That's Peyton
that's
Manning. We've heard stories about Peyton Manning calling the equipment or the film staff over at Tennessee and going, "You remember this play in 1996 against this team, this quarter, this exact play? Can you go pull that up for me?" I wouldn't be surprised if LeBron can call Miami staff and be like, "Do you remember when we were in this playoff game against this team? It was right around this quarter, but we ran this play. Can you send that to me?" Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he did the same exact thing.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, he's probably the smartest. I mean, basketball IQ wise, I think he's probably has the highest basketball IQ ever. You could definitely say Steve Nash. That's usually a point guard type of thing. I mean, Steve Nash, obviously, Jason Kidd's way up there, and John Stockton, and all these guys. But I mean, when it comes to greatest player ever, I mean, I still go with Jordan. I think you're just going by championships. You're going by complete and utter will. But at the same time, they're totally different kinds of players.
If you're going by championships, then Bill Russell's better than everyone. But that's why we don't only go by championships.
Right, you don't only go by championships, but yeah, I mean, remember Bill Russell, one of the top 10 greatest players ever. I mean, guy was amazing, but he played in the league when there was what, 4, 6 teams, 8 teams.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you can't, that's why you just can't compare eras. We're in a different era. And Michael took a beating in his era. You didn't go in the paint without getting knocked down. I think LeBron would still be a superstar in that era. He's generational, and I think he would be a different type of superstar. He would challenge Michael as the best player in the league at that time. But again, people say Michael would feast in this era. I don't know. This is a 3-point shooting era, and Michael Jordan came into the league. He was a bad 3-point shooter. He wasn't very good. He was a mid range savant. So he would have to really adjust to this game. It's a different game.
yeah, I mean, he became a better 3-point shooter as his career progressed. Um, but yeah, no, I think Michael Jordan would be phenomenal in this era. I think he'd be good in any era, just like I think LeBron would be good in any era. The one guy, I mean, I talked about this on one of my other podcasts. The one guy I would just be so interested if we got him somehow. We could change time around. We could get like 2000, 2001 Shaquille O'Neal in this era, and
Dominant.
just
Dominant.
I think so, but so many people I've had this conversation about think that he just wouldn't be as good. I just think, I mean, Shaq, in my opinion, isn't the greatest player ever, but he's the most dominant player ever.
Well,
And
people also forget Shaq had a 16-footer. It's not like Shaq only dunked and did layups. Shaq had a decent 16-footer. He could shoot the ball well, and he was never coached to go any further out. I think if you asked him and you taught him how to go further out, he could definitely expand his game. And another guy that would be interesting, put Russell Westbrook back in the 90s. I think Russell Westbrook is the top point guard because he has that, or one of the top point guards still, because I think he has that 90s grit to him and the fact that he's just so competitive and he hates everyone on the court. I just love Russell Westbrook's game.
yeah, no, he's definitely in the wrong era of basketball where everybody loves each other and hugs each other and are best friends. I mean, back when Larry Bird and Isaiah Thomas and Magic Johnson were playing, they all hated each other.
Absolutely,
And,
yeah. And it was
Magic,
they respected each other, but they didn't like each other.
no, I mean Magic Johnson and Isaiah Thomas were like best friends, and then when Magic Johnson hit him in that finals game, I can't remember what year, they stopped talking after that.
Yeah, and I think only until recently they had like a tearful reunion on NBA TV.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Isaiah Thomas broke down and cried. I mean, it was a very emotional thing. And it was just a different era. I personally I like that style of basketball. I mean, in the sense I love the 80s and the early 90s. And one of the last guys, kind of like the last guy of that dying breed was Kevin Garnett. And just hated everybody on the court. I'm a huge, huge KG fan. Always have been. And, I wish guys like that would still be around. I mean, Joel Embiid kind of looks like he has that a little bit in him.
But he's a goofball. He's a goofball.
Yeah, but Shaq was a goofball. Shaq was a goofball as well. But Shaq, when he was on the court, had that killer instinct. Off the court, complete goofball. On the court, just as competitive as Jordan. Just off the court, he turned it off and was a big, big goofball. So I think Embiid is kind of like that.
He is. And, we're talking about the new generation. We're within March Madness. There's a lot of talent coming out. I wanted to ask you, who would be your number one pick? The frontrunners seem to be Trae Young of Oklahoma, Colin Sexton of Bama, DeAndre Ayton of Arizona, or Marvin Bagley of Duke. 2 bigs, 2 point guards. Who would be your number one right now if you were a GM?
Oh, DeAndre Ayton, man. Easy. He's huge.
Even though he's kind of a dinosaur, he's a very back to the basket type of big. He's more of a Jahlil Okafor type of big, who seems to be a dying breed and just sitting there riding the bench on my bad Brooklyn Nets team.
I don't know. I think especially with how good Embiid is right now, I think Ayton's going to be the first pick. And that means he would go to, it would be interesting where he goes. I mean, the odds are it'd probably be like Memphis. But, I mean, then you're going, okay, would Memphis draft him when they have Marc Gasol? I still think they would. and I think that then they would just trade Gasol, or they could just trade the pick. You never know. But yeah, I like Ayton. What about you?
I played devil's advocate, but I have to agree. I just wanted to play devil's advocate to get a different point, but I agree. I think DeAndre Ayton, as much as it was disappointing to see Arizona get bounced so early, I do think he's the best pure player. I also really like Colin Sexton, but I don't know how his game's going to translate because you see a lot of these guys dominate in college, but the translation isn't well. So I like DeAndre Ayton. I think Marvin Bagley's too skinny for me. But yeah, DeAndre Ayton's my guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And getting bounced early, whatever. I believe Ben Simmons didn't even make the tournament, right, with LSU.
Which I criticized them for because I hated the fact that he went so high and he couldn't even carry a college team to a tournament. But obviously, I was wrong.
Yeah, no, he's nasty, dude.
Unbelievable.
He's nasty.
When he gets a jumper, he's the best player in the NBA.
Say it again?
When he gets a jumper, he's the best player in the NBA.
He'll definitely be up there, but I'm not gonna. We got to see it. I got to see it to believe it. But yes, he could possibly in a few years become the best player in the league. I agree with that.
Without a doubt. And we're talking about dominating leagues of Ben Simmons, LeBron. We're going to move over to football where teams are now really vying to try and find that guy that's going to help them dominate the league. It's free agency. The draft is in a few months. So far in free agency, it's been a flurry. It's been the funnest free agency I have seen in a really long time in terms of trades, in terms of teams picking up some real talent. What has been your favorite and least favorite move of free agency so far?
My favorite is AJ McCarron signed by the Bills. I thought personally. First, let's just state the deal. The deal was cheap. 2 years, $10 million, $6.5 million incentives, only $6 million guaranteed. Look, I honestly thought the Bengals should have held on to McCarron and let him challenge Andy Dalton for the starting job. Odds are he'd probably lose to Dalton because I do think Dalton is a legit starting quarterback. I just think Dalton's time is running out in Cincinnati, but I think
he's a legit starter, but he can't get past the first round. You can't be that legit if you can't get past the first round. He's had a lot of opportunities.
True, he's had a lot of opportunities in Cincinnati, but I think that big game against Baltimore when he came back and won, I think at the end of the season there, I think kind of put a lot of faith back in Dalton. And also they retained Marvin Lewis, so who knows what's going on in Cincinnati.
They just love cheap talent.
Yeah, it's true. But but back to McCarron, I think, he's the winner, man. Back-to-back BCS championship. I think he deserves a chance to start. I hope he starts in Buffalo, and I have a feeling he's going to be really good. As for the worst signing, and not that I think this player's a great NFL player. I just think the signing made no sense to me. Jordy Nelson for the Oakland Raiders. I mean, $15 million for 2 years, $13 million guaranteed. I don't understand why the Packers let Nelson go. It sounds like through reports they were lowballing him, and I kind of understand why you'd lowball receiver when you got Aaron Rodgers. Pretty much anyone can catch the ball.
Also with the injury, too, that didn't help his cause.
Of course, true. Very true. He's also 32 years old. He's going to be 33 in May.
Exactly.
What makes the signing weird is just the fact the Raiders released Michael Crabtree in the fourth year of his 5-year contract. They saved $7.4 million doing it. They don't owe him anything, obviously, after that. But, I know Crabtree wasn't great last year, and he had the issues with Talib, and he dropped so many passes. I think he only had around under 700 receiving yards. But I don't know. You're going from a 32-year-old or 33-year-old when he starts, Nelson. Yeah, Crabtree was 30, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like that much of an upgrade, especially with $13 million guaranteed to Nelson. Seems a little insane. What about yours?
Mine, well, I'm just going to comment on the Jordy Nelson. I look at all the things the Raiders have done, though. I really think this was just a part of the piece to try and help Carr. Carr got hit a lot last year. Carr got hurt. Carr didn't have a good year, but a lot of it had to do because there was so much pressure on him to score literally every time they touched the ball because their defense was so bad. And I think that guys like Crabtree took a step back. So I think getting Jordy Nelson, who's a consummate professional, they also picked up Doug Martin on a 1-year deal. They picked up Derek Carrier on a 3-year deal, 5.5 for cheap. Lee Smith. So even though those two tight ends are relative unknowns, they're still weapons. Bruno Giacomini, I'm not a fan of, but he's a professional tackle. And they shored up the defense. They got a lot of defensive players. I just think it was a sum of a whole, and they had money to spend, so they spent it on a talented player. But going from my favorite to my worst, I'm going to do my worst first because it's literally the most ridiculous thing. I think I mentioned it on the last podcast. I'm going to mention it again. Sam Bradford getting 2 years, $40 million from the Arizona Cardinals. Are you serious? He's a very good player. He's always hurt though. He's not worth $40 million at all. I don't know what the details are of the contract, but all I need to know is the guy could potentially make $40 million more dollars for being the most injured player in the history of football. I hate the move. I know Carson Palmer's getting old, but they also brought Mike Glennon over, who, with the right weapons, could potentially be pretty good. He hasn't had a real chance to really step up. He was basically sabotaged by the Bears last year when they had Mitch Trubisky around. They brought him in for no reason. So I hate the move that the Cardinals did. That's my least favorite move is Sam Bradford. What do you think about that move?
You're saying it was. Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was a 2-year deal. I thought it was only a 1-year deal.
No,
That's
it's 2 year, $40 million. I think he has like 20 of it guaranteed, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, he has a 10 million signing bonus. Base yeah. No, it's. I don't think it's the worst because I think if he's healthy, look, man, he's good.
When has he been healthy though? Tell me when. He always gets hurt. Always. You're guaranteeing only having at least 10 to 12 games with him because he's gonna get hurt.
I think if you get 10 to 12 games of him and he plays like he played against the Saints in game 1 of last season when he completed 80-something% of his passes, and he's very Chad Pennington-ish, which I'm a huge Chad Pennington fan.
Super Chad.
But I mean, the thing is, if he plays like that, man, he's worth that money. He's worth that money. So if he's healthy and if he plays like he usually can, then he's worth that money. Then we're not even talking about
We just both highballed him, though, because we know he's not going to play 10 games. Like, that's just why would you go out and get another starting caliber or high backup caliber guy in Mike Glennon if you just paid Sam Bradford all that money? And you know Carson Palmer, if he loses, is going to be the starting job, will be a really serviceable backup. They obviously had to get a safety net in Mike Glennon, which makes me really scratch my head why you're going to give the guy $20 million guaranteed.
Yeah, but Mike Glennon's very injury prone too. I don't trust Mike Glennon whatsoever.
Neither do I, but you know what though? At least he hasn't had a chance to prove himself. We know what Sam Bradford is. He's a talented guy that's often injured.
True, yeah.
And
no, I mean, it all comes down to injury, man. If he's healthy, though, okay, like I said, if he's healthy, and let's say he gets you 12 to 14 quality starts, and let's say the Cardinals end the season 10-6, boom, it's a huge success. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. He just hopes David Johnson's healthy so he doesn't have to throw the ball much. You can just hand the ball to that guy.
Yeah, look, if David Johnson's healthy, Sam Bradford's healthy, the Cardinals are going to be a pretty darn good team, if you ask me.
Yeah, because Larry Fitzgerald keeps on drinking from the fountain of youth. Why didn't I go to the University of Phoenix? It seems like that's the key to being a mega athlete your whole life.
Maybe it is.
Ridiculous. And he just looks like a stud in all those commercials with his mom around and everything. Like, what a wholesome dude. Dude.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually got to I've worked with Larry Fitzgerald a couple times since coming out here. He seems like he's a really...
So you just made me hate the fact that I brought you on this podcast. I hate you for that.
Yeah, I mean, I work with a public relations firm where we're in charge of all his different charities and stuff like that. So he seems like he's a really great guy. I'm not going to sit here and say I've sat down and talked with him, but just being in the same room with him. And I'm going to tell you the truth, out here, man, he is Mr. Arizona. That dude's invited to everything. That dude, they want him everywhere. I mean, he is just the heart and soul of this state. It's pretty incredible.
So you pulling for the Cardinals a little more since you're out there, and since you got to basically work with a guy like Larry Fitzgerald, and honestly, that organization seems like a pretty stand-up organization. You never really hear about their guys getting in too much trouble or any such controversies coming out of the Cardinals locker room.
Well, was Michael Floyd on the Cardinals when he had that DWI thing?
I think he was, but that's like the worst thing you're gonna have. Like, they're human beings and they have a lot of money, and most of the time they're young. Like that type of stuff is expected from me.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
The DUI thing, like as long as they didn't kill anyone, as long as they weren't like, putting kids in danger, like who was it? Sheldon Richardson and the Jets when he was on, like put like a toddler in danger, like something ridiculous with like weed in the car, like that's ridiculous. But if he's like coming out from the club, he's a little bit, I don't promote DWI. Like let's get that out there. I'm not a fan of it. But guys make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. Young kids without money make mistakes with that type of stuff. You give a young kid, I don't care what background they've ever had, a 20-something-year-old kid millions of dollars, and all of a sudden they become popular to everyone when they go out to the club, yeah, they're going to make some mistakes. It just happens that way.
Yeah, unless you're LeBron,
The
you
kid,
don't.
hashtag kid from Akron.
Yeah, true. All right, so who's your best then?
My favorite, I'm cheating a little bit, the Cleveland Browns, period. Everything that they've done. They finally have a GM. Dorsey is a legitimate GM. And, bringing in Tyrod Taylor, Deshaun Kaiser's gone. So they bring in a legitimate starting caliber quarterback. I'm not high on Tyrod as a Super Bowl or even a playoff great type of guy, but the guy can ball. You put Carlos Hyde behind him, right next to Duke Johnson Jr., who had a career year last year. And then you bring in Jarvis Landry to partner with Josh Gordon, who, if healthy, is a top 5 receiver. Not even if healthy, if he's not smoking weed, is a top 5 receiver in the NFL. Jarvis Landry is a top 5 talent, I think, because he's as freakishly talented as anyone out there. And then you still have Corey Coleman, who's just a big red zone target. And they bring in Darren Fells and still have Ndoku, who was a tight end that came on from last year. And I think Gary Barnidge is still around. I think Gary's still around. But they just put weapons on that team, and they still have the first and fourth pick in a deep quarterback draft. Oh, and a guy by the name of Shaquan Barkley is probably going to be available at 4. I just think that they've done everything right on paper, and it rolls into who I think has improved the most. I'm a Jets fan, and I think they've done some great things, but I don't think anyone has improved more than the Cleveland Browns. How about you?
I totally agree. Trading for Tyrod Taylor was a great move. Okay, trading for Tyrod Taylor became a great move after they re-signed. Traded for Jarvis Landry.
Oh, hell yeah. And then, you bring in the fact that you have Tyrod Taylor, who I think knows he's a bridge guy. If I'm Cleveland, I pick Josh Allen because he's the mold of the great quarterbacks in your division. Big Ben, big, tall, cannon of an arm, durable, can take hits. Joe Flacco, cannon of an arm, big, can take hits. 2 smaller school guys, and Josh Allen's the same way. He's massive. You saw on his pro day, I think it was yesterday, the guy has the strongest arm out of anyone there. And he was playing with a bunch of, you saw the receivers he was playing with. I think he had like 7 drop passes, and all of them were on the money. They were legitimate drops. His receivers were awful at Wyoming. So if I'm them, I go with that. And then I think Shaquan Barkley still sits there at 4, or they have Chubb that they could pick up the pass rusher, or they can get the guard from Notre Dame. I think it's Quentin, what's his name?
Quentin Nelson.
Yeah, Quentin Nelson. The depth is there, or Micah Fitzpatrick's there. Like they have the world at their feet with 1 and 4. So, and then with these free agent moves, on the podcast last week with my brother, I predict potential wild card for them. How about you?
Wild card. I didn't really. I gotta see what happens with the draft. I think it's definitely they're definitely going to have a chance. I think they got a lot better. They lost Joe Thomas. They replaced him with Chris Hubbard. That's not a bad move, And yeah, I thought they were going into before they got Landry. I thought they were one of 2 franchises, along with the Washington Redskins. Even though we know what happened with them, I thought they should start a drafted QB. Pickett Taylor. I'm assuming Taylor's going to be the starting QB this coming year, regardless if they get Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen or Josh Allen or Baker Mayfield or whoever. I think Taylor will be the starter. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be a playoff team, but they're definitely going to be so much better than last season.
So are they your most improved pick?
Oh, yeah, easily.
Now, what's a team do you think, you look at it, who do you think needs to do more in order to improve?
I just mentioned it, the Washington Redskins. They make no sense to me as an organization. They make number one. I don't even want to get in the name. I hate saying the term Redskins. I usually just refer to them as Washington.
You're one of those that doesn't like the name?
Oh no, it's horrible. It's completely uncalled for. I hate it. They could easily change their name to the Monuments or something. It would make way more sense. But we're not going to go down that road.
We'll do political talk on another podcast. We could probably do it on this one, just about sports teams. That could be fun.
Yeah. I mean, we probably could. But I mean, the Washington teams makes no sense, man. Like I said before the trades and the free agency happened, I thought Washington was one of the same with the Browns. Before the Browns got Taylor, I thought they were two teams that should go in the draft, get a QB, and start refresh. Then for some reason they trade for Alex Smith, and bringing Alex Smith over makes no sense because they don't have any talent on their roster.
Especially with the Jets picking up Terrell Pryor, who was, right next. I think Jay Crowder's a nice player, but he's not a number one.
No, Josh Jackson and Jamison Crowder are nice players. They're nice. There's the key word there.
Yeah.
They're not. I mean, Alex Smith, had Tyreek Hill and then Travis Kelce last year, and the running back was Kareem Hunt. I mean, I like Alex. I think Alex Smith is a really good quarterback, and I think he should be starting, but he should not be starting for the Washington Redskins unless they make a lot of moves. Yes, they just got Orlando Scandrick. Ooh, nice move. He's a nice player. But, I mean, they got to do so much more to put the talent around Alex Smith, or he's just a waste of money for them.
Absolutely. And my worst team that needs to improve more, we talked about them already, the Cincinnati Bengals. What exactly are they doing? They picked up Mac Barkley for 2 years to be a backup quarterback. Awesome. They lost Jeremy Hill. They re-signed Tyler Eifert, who's injury-prone. I guess their big move is picking up the offensive tackle from the Bills. They traded for Cordy Glenn. But, they really haven't done anything. And I think they're midway in the draft, so it's not even like they have a great draft that they could potentially do in front of them. We talked about how, Marvin Lewis is pretty damn average. He's becoming a very Jeff Fisher-like coach where just can't get over the hump. Even Fisher brought his team to a Super Bowl, and he's one of the most mediocre coaches ever. Andy Dalton's pretty mediocre. You're going to go into the league with Giovanni Bernard as your stud running back. Again, Giovanni Bernard had a good year last year, but that's now, what is it, 6th, 7th year season in the NFL? He should have been this guy already. You don't have that many more years with Gio Bernard. I just think the Cincinnati Bengals, with all the moves the Browns have made, with the fact that, the Steelers still have Antonio Brown, Bell, and Big Ben, and their defense is still decent. It's not a Steelers defense, but it's not bad. Losing Ryan Shazier, obviously, to that awful injury completely derailed everything the Steelers were doing. They looked lost because he was their quarterback on defense. But even the Ravens, they still have Flacco. They still have some good players. So for me, to compete in that division, they really had to do more. And the Bengals are just kind of sitting pat. And they're going to wonder why they're still the Bengals. And they're going to be the worst team in their division.
Yeah, I think that comes down to ownership. I don't think Mike Brown, right, is the owner of the Bengals?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's his name.
Yeah, Mike Brown's the owner. Obviously, he's fine with staying mediocre, and that's where the Bengals are going to be. I don't expect much of them. I think they, again, like I said, A.J. McCarron should be battling Andy Dalton right now for the starting job, to at least light a fire under Dalton, to maybe get him to play, to get to that second level. I view quarterbacks in basically four different levels. You got the elite guys, which are like Breeze, Brady, Rodgers. Boom, that's it.
I hate that word. I hate the word elite. I hate the word elite. It's such a bad word in sports. It's so thrown around.
Well, no, I mean, you wouldn't say those three guys are the best quarterbacks in football?
Yeah, we can call them the best. I just hate the word elite. I think it's so overused.
Okay, well, we'll say they're the best. Okay, then you have the upper echelon guys, which are
Wentz, Goff, those guys.
I wouldn't even put Goff there, but sure. Wentz.
I like Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff had a really, he needs to develop more. He was getting plays called for him and reads told to him, but, I think he's going to progress. He has the talent.
Yeah, no, it's so Okay, well, that's fine, but maybe that could be for a different conversation. But I mean, I think Andy Dalton's in the third category. Good enough. He's good enough.
He's a starter in the NFL, but that's about it.
That's about it, right? You want to get him to the second category. He's never going to get to the Tom Brady category. You want to get him to the second category, then you have a chance to win a Super Bowl with him. I think he's a starter. I just don't know if he's going to be a starter in Cincinnati that much longer.
I can completely, yeah. I hope he's not. If they want to move along, I really hope he's not. But and we're speaking of guys that can change franchises. The draft is coming up soon. I thought we could do something a little fun. The top five is always like the big deal for the draft, especially top three. We have like the big four name quarterbacks: Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Baker Mayfield. We also have guys like Quentin Nelson, the guard of Notre Dame, Shaquan Barkley, running back out of Penn State, Bradley Chubb, defensive end out of North Carolina State, even Minka Fitzpatrick, defensive back Alabama. Who's your top five? Do you see any trades happening? Run through it real quick.
Top five I have right now. I think Sam Darnold's going to go first to Cleveland. Though if I'm Cleveland, I'm trading that first pick. I don't think I'm taking Darnold. I think you have to take a quarterback with the first pick, and I don't think they need to take a quarterback with the first pick. So, but I think they stick with it. I think Darnold is the guy. Number two, I like the Giants taking Saquon Barkley. Yeah, they got Jonathan Stewart in the offseason, but whatever. He's never been a really full-time running back anyway. And I think he's the best player in the draft. I think the Giants take him. Three, I think a lot of people think now, since they traded Jason Pierre-Paul, I think a lot of people think the Giants are going to take Chubb. I don't think they are, though. Three, I like Josh Rosen from the Jets.
I'll take any of the four.
There you go. Four, I like Bradley Chubb going here to Cleveland. And then five, I think Keenum needs as much protection as possible. I like Quentin Nelson for Denver.
Wow. Okay. So I actually like that top five. I think it would be awesome to mix it up. And I kind of find it interesting that you don't have Baker Mayfield or Jared Allen in your top five. So that's pretty telling for how you feel about them. Go ahead.
No, just like I'm not sold on any quarterback in this draft. Not sold on any of them. I don't think any quarterback in this draft is better than any starter, could be better than any starter in the NFL right now. Now, like last draft, we had Wentz and Goff. You're like, okay, those guys, they're going to be legit, and they turned out to be legit. I don't think anyone in this draft is a sure thing.
They're all flawed. Don't get me wrong. They are all flawed. They all have their issues. I was joking with a friend the other day that I feel like the Browns, they should just literally, like everyone, to get the first pick, you basically have to give a king's ransom. I feel like they should try and see if they can get the Jets or Giants to get the first pick and then drop down and then continue to keep on trying to trade down until they have like 1,000 picks in this draft and the future drafts. So you can just build a team since their team is still very mediocre. I think that'll be ridiculous, but it would be funny.
Yeah, no, I like the Giants trading. I like the Giants trading with the Browns so they get the top two picks.
Yeah, it would be interesting. But for me, I think Cleveland, if I was Cleveland, I would take Josh Allen. Like I said, I think he fits the mold of all those quarterbacks there, and I think he's actually the best quarterback in the draft. Everyone points to his inaccuracy and how it hasn't gotten any better in 2 years. 2 years ago, he had better receivers. So in order for his accuracy to stay around the same number in his senior season, just tells you he got better because his receivers were significantly worse. He has a cannon of an arm. He has good feet. I don't see him buckling under pressure. So that's who I take at number one if I'm Cleveland. If I'm the Giants, I know you said Saquon Barkley. A lot of people say Saquon Barkley. Yes, they just got Nate Solder to block. Who else is going to block for them? They still have Flowers, who's probably going to be their starting right tackle. Justin Pugh's gone. John Jerry's gone. Weston Richburg's gone. They haven't addressed any of those guys. You're just going to get Saquon Barkley murdered. Todd Gurley was pretty mediocre 2 years ago because the Rams line was absolutely awful. I don't, and people compare Saquon Barkley to Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott has the best line in football in front of him. He has 3 yards every time he touches the ball just given to him. Saquon Barkley isn't Barry Sanders. I don't think he's going to be. Barry Sanders is the only guy that could break 2,000 yards with a collegiate style line. So I'm not taking Saquon Barkley if I'm the Giants there. I'm taking Sam Darnold right there because I think he has a similar demeanor to the way Eli is, and his character and his charisma are good for New York and the New York media in terms where he's very even keel. Number 3 with the Jets, I like Josh Rosen for the Jets. I think he's a pure passer. And the Jets they can't not take a quarterback or McCagnon will lose his job, period. Cleveland at number 4, this is where I think they take Saquon Barkley and shore up everything that they've done in free agency. And here is where I agree with you in the trade. If they feel like the Giants are going to take Saquon Barkley at 2, I think that Cleveland trades that 4 and comes up. Number 5, this is where I see a trade possibly occurring. Case Keenum is there. I think they do like Case Keenum, but I don't know if the Broncos like anyone enough there. And so I really think that possibly the Buffalo Bills jump up there to go and get Baker Mayfield, or they might jump up higher. But this is where I see the Bills the lowest that they go to go and grab Baker Mayfield because the Bills obviously need a quarterback. So that's my top 5.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Yeah. The thing I'm thinking, I mean, if I'm the Giants, like I kind of stated before, if I'm the Giants, I am trading probably as many draft picks as I possibly can to get Cleveland's number 1 pick, so I get the top 2 picks in the draft, and then I just draft Barkley, and then I just draft Quentin Nelson, number 2.
So you don't go quarterback at all for the Giants. You think Eli and a guy we've never seen throw a football in a game, Davis Webb, are enough?
No, I think Eli's definitely enough. I throw out Davis Webb. I don't even think he's a factor. I think Eli Manning is still a really good quarterback. I think honestly, let's say this in a fantasy world, this happens. Let's say they get Quentin Nelson, and they obviously got Nate Solder, and let's say they get Saquon Barkley. I think the Giants could be a Super Bowl contender.
But when's the next time you can pick this high in the draft and potentially get a quarterback? I know you're not high on any of them, but you're not going to be this high again probably for another decade. Even trying to be this bad, you probably can't be. No one's the Browns every year. So, the part of me feels like you can't, and I don't think Gettleman is going to not take the chance to kind of get his future quarterback here.
I guess. I mean, I understand. I mean, yeah, and the odds are they are gonna draft a quarterback. But I mean, I don't know. I've never been a draft guy. Never have been. Never probably will be. Most percentage of these players are gonna suck.
Yeah, that's the fact. And a lot of the great players we're going to see are probably going to come from the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th rounds.
Right. I mean, why not? Okay, if you're the Giants, I mean, okay, let's say they don't trade all their picks to get to number 1. Okay, trade for Baker Mayfield. I sign Baker Mayfield later on. Sign Lamar Jackson later on. I mean, do it that way. I think you have to take a running back, or I think you have to take Barkley or Nelson if you're the Giants with that number 2 pick. Honestly.
I think that would be good, and I honestly think Mason Rudolph is going to end up being the best quarterback out of these guys. Mason Rudolph from Oklahoma State. I think he has a pure, people knock the Big 12 because all they play is in shotguns. Has anyone seen the Patriots play over the last 5 years? Anyone seen Green Bay play over the last 5 years? They put their hands under center? Very few. Most of it's in shotgun. So the knock on these shotgun quarterbacks not being good in the NFL, the hand under the butt, getting down is very underrated, and you could teach guys that. And if you can't teach a guy that, you should find that out well before. So that's just me.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's so many quarterbacks around. I think they're all about the same. I don't think you got to waste one of your top picks on one. Draft some guy later on. That's my viewpoint on it.
Yeah, I just think right now, in terms of the Browns and the Jets, their GMs are hamstrung to the point where the Browns have passed on so many good quarterbacks, and the Jets just traded up, and McCagnon likes his job. So I just think the Browns aren't going to take a chance on passing on a good quarterback, and McCagnon has to take one just for the fact that if both are busts, both GMs can say, listen, we listened to all the scouts. We tried. You know what I mean? So it's not good. They're going to be able to keep their job for at least another year if it's that bad.
Yeah, no, see, but that's the thing. I think yes, there's a handful of scouts that believe that some of these guys are that a lot of these guys are good, but then there's also a handful of scouts that just go, man, there's no Carson Wentz here. I mean, you know, it matters what kind of owner you have. I mean, I think it matters on the owner of the team. I mean, it matters what kind of expectations. You think? I mean, I think Tyrod Taylor for the Cleveland Browns is better than any quarterback that can come out of this draft right now.
See, I disagree. I've never been high on Tyrod though. That's just me. I don't think he's as accurate as you need to be in order to be an NFL quarterback. And I also think that he's a guy that doesn't use his mobility enough. He could use his mobility in a safer way. I just don't think he's a good enough pocket passer, and he prefers to be a pocket passer.
Yeah, I mean, I think also that has to do with coaching and just like GM.
Hugh Jackson's not a very good coach. Hugh Jackson, he's not a very good coach, so it's not like he's going to a really good coaching situation.
No, how many teams, how many players, I mean, besides, you know, there's only a handful of good coaches in the NFL.
Absolutely. And, you know, and I think, and I talked about this with Chuck Williams when I did the podcast with him about Doug Peterson, who, you know, is kind of like Ron Rivera, who they gamble a lot. And especially in Philly, if Doug Peterson gambles a lot on fourth down again this year and it doesn't work as often as it did, his time in Philly may be up because Philly fans, Philly ownership doesn't play when it comes to losing. Unless you're Andy Reid, then you're there forever, regardless.
I think but you're right. Doug Peterson, Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio, those guys are big gamblers. And it worked out for Peterson, but it could come back to bite him this season.
Yeah, so you know, we just talked about, like you said, a lot of these guys are going to suck in the draft. A lot of these guys are going to be busts. A lot of these guys aren't going to be on rosters come the start of this NFL season. Now, fortunately for them, in the near future, they might still be able to play professional football. I'm talking about spring football, which has typically not been successful, but there's now two leagues popping up. One that's trying to revamp their image and start anew, and another one that's coming out that I think actually has a real chance of working. One of them is the XFL, run by Vince McMahon, the owner of the WWE. And, you know, he promises that this isn't going to be the XFL that we all remembered and I friggin' loved. He's running it on his own, and he made a lot of these big, you know, he's going to make the league shorter. He's going to make everyone stand for the anthem. He's really trying to play into everything the NFL isn't. And he's only running it on his own. He's the sole owner, which kind of scares me because he's not a football guy. Now, flip that over to the new league, which I literally just heard about 2 years ago on the afternoon drive on the Fam with Craig Carlin, Maggie Gray, and Bart Scott, where Justin Tuck was doing an interview on the Alliance of American Football, which, G-Money, I just looked up the rules and all that and stuff, and it seems like they're really trying to do the same thing as the XFL, but I think with the minds that they have, they're going to implement it better. Do you want to talk about some of the rules and things they're trying to change?
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to change what the XFL is basically trying to change. I mean, you know, they're going to be getting rid of kickoffs for two reasons. One, obviously, for player safety, because it's one of the most dangerous plays in professional football. You know, they're going to start everybody on the 25-yard line. You know, and also they're going to get rid of kickoffs because it's one of the most boring plays in football. And we know how short Americans' attention span is nowadays. So they want everyone to be glued in 24/7. They know people glue out during kickoffs. So that's why they're doing that. They're obviously, that means they're going to get rid of the onside kick. So in a quote here from founder Charlie Ebersole from the Dan Patrick Show is this. He states, obviously, if you get rid of the kickoff, you have to get rid of the onside kick. So what we're doing, if you want to go for the equivalent of the onside kick, we will give you your ball on your own 35, and you'll be facing 4th and 10. If you convert, you keep going. If you don't, you're giving the ball back to someone knocking on your own Red zone.
That's
Quote there.
awesome. That's exciting to me. That's a really
Sure.
good idea that I have no idea why anyone in the NFL hasn't thought of yet.
Yeah, no, it's a very exciting idea. I'm with you on that. They say they're going to get rid of the extra point. Everyone's going to have to do a 2-point conversion. So they're just getting rid of kicking in general. They're gonna cut the play clock down to 30 seconds.
I don't like that. I'm not a fan of putting I think that there's a lot that goes on, and you take away the chess match that we've seen Brady play with Luke Kuechly and other great middle linebackers and quarterbacks play. I'm not a fan of the shortening.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. That's what they're changing. It's very similar to the model of the XFL, except Vince McMahon stating everyone has to stand for the anthem. Whenever he can't do that, he can't. I don't care what. I mean, okay. Hold on. I don't know how much he's going to be paying these players that are going to play in this league. I am sure it's not going to be NFL salaries, so maybe they'll listen to him a little bit more because they don't want to lose their job. But the odds of every single one of them standing for the anthem, it's kind of like Donald Trump saying he's going to build a wall.
Well, I think that's out the window now that the AAF exists. Before, when they were going to be the only spring football league, just so guys can play professional ball, they might have listened. Now that this league's going to exist, I think this spells doom for the XFL.
Well, the XFL, okay. Here's the thing about the XFL, man. He tried it, it failed, right? It was the Extreme Football League. He's saying, when he had that big message all across the computer, the interweb, whatever, stating all the different things, it's going to be better than the NFL. It's going to capitalize on everything the NFL's bad at. It's also going to be safer, but the name is still called the Extreme Football League.
Yeah, I honestly, we're talking about this to compare them. The more you look at it, there is no comparison. They put in play how they're going to shorten games. They're not going to do the ridiculous 2 hours that Vince McMahon said, but they're going to have no TV timeouts, 60% fewer commercials. So you're going to get a game that's around, they're planning on 30 minutes shorter, 150 minutes in the NFL, which is great. 2.5 hours is so much better. And also, 2 coaches challenge are the only replays. I've been preaching for that forever. The fact that they replay everything in the NFL now takes away the strategy of the coaches challenge. So that's another thing I'm big on that I like about this league.
Yeah, okay. All right, remember. Okay, they're gonna have lower amounts of timeouts, right?
Yeah.
Until the XFL gets pretty popular and those sponsors start knocking on the door and they go, "Oh, you have a couple timeouts, we'll throw millions of dollars at you."
Well, that's the AAF. The AAF has those rules, not the XFL.
Oh, the AAF. Okay.
And that's and I agree with you. It's the same thing. In the AAF, if they do get popular, and Merrill Lynch comes and goes, "Listen, you give us an extra spot in each commercial, or you give us a TV timeout. It's just a 30-second clip. You could show it side by side. Just keep the game on the screen." They'll do it. It's money.
Yeah, they're going to do it. Of course they're going to do it because they're trying to take down the NFL. Look, now is the NFL is the worst it's ever been right now.
And it's still the most dominant thing besides soccer around the world.
I think the NBA is going to overtake it very soon.
I don't think there's a chance. Yeah, I think they're 10 years away. Minimum 10 years.
Okay, well, let's say, 10 years, it's as fast as time goes right now, 10 years really isn't that long of a time.
But I'm also thinking that MLS really makes a forefront. I think America is going to become much more soccer heavy than we think very soon.
I don't know about that. That's soccer and Americans. I don't know.
MLS has kept expanding. They keep on bringing players. Zabra Ibrahimovic just came over to the LA Galaxy. The guy's a massive international star, still a super talented player. The MLS is making moves. They keep on expanding. You don't expand unless you're making money.
True. Oh, no, of course they're making money. If they weren't making money, they'd be abolished.
Yeah.
So, they're making money. But what I'm saying back to the NFL is the NFL is the worst it's ever been right now. They have a horrible commissioner, Roger Goodell. They have all the concussion drama. They have all the political drama going on. Now is the time for Vince McMahon and Ebersol to create these other leagues to challenge it. And also, they're smart enough to say, hey, we're going to be in the spring. And then also the NFL could watch it and take their best players if that's what ends up happening. It could just end up being a minor league for players outside of college who aren't good enough to make it to the NFL or need a little more polish, and then they could go to the NFL. Could turn into that.
It could be a feeder league. And when I was listening to the interview with Justin Tuck, I believe Craig Carlin asked him that directly. Is their goal to be a G League, to be a minor league? And he said, number one, they're not competing with the NFL. All the guys, you look at the people that are involved in this. You have Charlie Ebersol, Bill Polian's involved, who if you watch ESPN, you know the guy. He was a great GM. Troy Polamalu, Hines Ward, Jarrett Allen, Justin Tuck, all names that everyone knows in football. So these are football guys. And he said they know that the NFL is this monstrosity, so trying to battle with them isn't smart, even in the spring. And in terms of being a G League, he said, there's a reason why players in the NFL fought tooth and nail to not have a 20-game season. It's long, it's grueling, it's painful. After 16 games plus playoffs, if you're fortunate enough, guys are hurt. So guys even on the low man of the roster that have to go through practice for 17 weeks plus training camp aren't going to want to come play in that league. So they're trying to base it. He said there's around 800 guys that try out or get finished through Division I college that end up never playing in the NFL. So that's the group that they're trying to target. And, maybe some guys will try and make that transition, but Justin Tuck made the point of it's going to be really tough for guys to jump right back from one league to the other if that's what they want to do. It's not like basketball. It's not like baseball where they're not getting their heads pounded in every play. So that, to that point of being a feeder league, he said if it turns into that, they're not opposed to it, and you could see why they're not opposed to it. All these guys are NFL guys that are here. So it's not like they're, they hate the NFL. They're really trying to compete. So it's really something that I think is going to be interesting, that if they become a feeder league or if they just become a fun watching minor league. You know what I mean? Like a watchable minor league.
Yeah, and you're going to have guys like Johnny Manziel that are going to try out.
He's going to be the face of it as long as his act is together. The guys here, I don't think will take bullshit. I really don't.
Well, he's definitely going to try out. I think you could even see a Michael Vick appearance.
Mark Sanchez is probably going to go play in that league and have a nice career.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Why not? You want to be a backup in the NFL for the rest of your career, or do you want to maybe be a starter over there?
And you know what? And this is, and instead of making, maybe you could probably make $4 million as a starter instead of $6 million as a backup, but you get to play football. And, Tim Tebow is probably looking at this going, why the hell didn't they do this 6 years ago? Tim Tebow would have been a prime guy in that league.
He could still be.
I don't know. I really don't know. There's some talented guys. I don't think, it's weird what a few years can do, and especially a few years being out of football.
I'm sure he's still. Obviously he's in baseball right now, and I don't know how he looks. I don't think he's making the major league roster.
Probably not. He got sent back down.
Yeah, he got sent back down. But look, I'm a Tebow. I'm a Tebow fan in the sense of I think he should have been given way more chances at being a starter.
The Jets ruined him. The Jets screwed him with what they did to him. Rex Ryan didn't want him. They brought him over, and Rex Ryan made it obvious he didn't want him and used him in terrible situations. I'm a Jets fan, but they ruined Tim Tebow's career.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And he might want to come back. His dream is always to be a starting quarterback. He might want to do it again, so we'll see.
So an interesting tidbit about the AAF that I just saw. They have announced that they have a deal with CBS Sports, and they'll be broadcast on CBS Sports Network, at least one game a week, and their mobile app will offer all their games live streaming, and they'll provide fantasy sports on it. So they're doing everything right, and it shows that they have a lot of smart guys running this. So in terms of AAF versus XFL, I think we're both in agreement. The AAF has a real shot where I think the AAF existence dooms the XFL.
Yeah, especially when they're going to be coming earlier than the XFL. The XFL is 2020. AAF will be 2019. no, I agree with you. I think when you have all those football minds in one room, I trust the guys that have played the game.
And it's smart players. It's not idiots. It's guys that did it right. Troy Polamalu, Heinz Ward, Justin Tuck. It's really like, guys that you think of those three names, you think of, oh, well, they were gritty, they were tough, and they were smart players. Two of them are Hall of Famers, probably. I think Troy Polamalu definitely. And Heinz Ward has a chance of being a Hall of Famer. So
True.
it's interesting. And now we are going to shift gears completely from everything we've done, and we're going to talk about a sport that we both enjoy, tennis.
Oh, yeah.
So, Roger Federer really came on strong again last year. He looked like he had a second wind. You have Novak Djokovic, who faltered. He was hurt pretty much last year for a good amount. And, the part of that big three, Rafael Nadal just hasn't been himself. Out of those three guys, do you see any of them coming back to form, being the number one guy in the world?
I mean, Federer is the number one guy in the world.
Currently.
I know it. I know Nadal is actually very close being behind him, but he's injured. But look, I mean, it was Federer's what, 36?
He's 36 going on to 25.
Yeah, I've always been a huge Roger Federer fan. I just think you have to admire during the time period when he wasn't winning any majors and he was just staying there, staying competitive, and then the door opened up for him again and he seized it, even at 36 years old, which is ridiculously ancient for a tennis player. I mean, we are talking about super old here. And look, he's the best in the world. He's probably going to retain being the best in the world. I mean, I don't see those guys. I mean, Djokovic, I don't know, man. This is his first time dealing with a serious injury, and he just doesn't seem like he's going to be the same guy. He just lost in the Miami Open in the first round to Benoit Paire. He's 30. And here's the other thing. He is 30, which is old in tennis.
Well, yeah, and you talk about that, and you look at another guy, Marin Cilic, who I feel like has been around forever. He's 29. The top of the group, the top three, is like the elder statesman right now.
Right, and that's the thing. So 30 is old. Not every player is Roger Federer in the sense of, or like not every player is LeBron James in the sense of, these guys are just ridiculous athletes. They take such care of themselves. Maybe Djokovic hasn't taken the best care of himself. He's 30 and he's done like every other normal tennis player. It's just time. It's just time for him.
It's definitely the way Nadal played. Nadal relied on speed. He relied on quickness. So I think that's definitely what has hurt him more than anything is his style of play. Now, a guy that really, really interests me, but he's kind of a douche, Nick Kyrgios. I think that's how you say his name, Kyrgios. All the talent in the world doesn't seem to care about anything. He has potential of being a top 5 player. Do you think he ever gets his act together?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, probably not. I mean, I think you have to be a very stoic personality in tennis. I think you have to be very you have to control your emotions, because I think it's one of my favorite sports just due to the reason is it's the only sport, I mean, again, especially in the 4 majors, it's the only sport, or the 4 opens, whatever you want to call them. I keep calling them.
Yeah.
It's the only sport where you are literally on your own. You can't even talk to your coaches. Like in boxing, I know everyone talks about boxing, but at least in boxing, you can go in the corner and get some help. In tennis, you're on an island, man.
I couldn't talk to anyone in track. What are you talking about, G-Money? When I was in my race, I was done.
Okay. Well, okay, you could throw in track there too. But I mean,
I agree with you. Yeah, it's an isolated sport. If you're going through something, you have to work it out on your own. There's no timeouts.
Right, it's true. And that's why I think the young buck there is totally, I don't know. I mean, what is he, 20?
He's something like that. Nick, he's young and he's so talented, but he's kind of an idiot. I just think he's enjoying making some money and just living his life. He's 22 years old. And, Australian Opens, he's made the quarterfinals. Furthest he's been in the French is the third. But Wimbledon, he's made the quarters. U.S., he's gotten to the third round. So he has some talent. He's done some things. but he's just really disappointing in terms of his attitude. Speaking of disappointments, we haven't had a great American since Andy Roddick. The guy that's been trying to carry that mantle has been John Isner, but he's really disappointed. You look at the top of the rankings of tennis rankings right now. Jack Sock is the highest rated American at 11th. Sam Querrey is 14th. Isner sitting there at 17th. And then you have to go really, really far down to 53 for Ryan Harrison and 54 for Steve Johnson. Oh, we have a guy named Tennis from America. Hold on one second. I'm scrolling through these rankings, G Money, and there's a dude named Tennis Sangren who's an American. How is he not in the top 10? Your name is Tennis.
That's just his parents thinking he's a Greek god or something.
But anyway, is there a great American anywhere? We haven't had it in forever.
No, stick with Serena. Stick with Serena because we're not going to see a great American men's tennis player probably until we're in our 40s.
So Serena and Sloane Stephens, those are our two, because Sloane is unbelievable too.
Yeah, Sloane is unbelievable. Serena obviously is the one of the greatest tennis players ever.
One of the greatest athletes I think ever. You could put her up there with the Tiger Woods type of athlete caliber dominance.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, God, yeah. Serena's amazing. And, yeah, I think we got to stick on the women's side because on the men's side, I don't see it. I don't see it. I mean, I don't see anybody coming up that's going to chat. I mean, Andy Roddick was our last chance. He was decent. Nothing special, though.
No, he could just hit the serve 1,000 miles an hour. That was the fun part about Andy Roddick. And in tennis games, like, what were some of the games? Top Spin, I think it was, and Virtua Tennis. He was just fun to hit the ball like 70,000 miles an hour. But
yeah, and he was the best American player, and that's why
he won one U.S. Open. Finished he made the finals a million times in a lot of big hardcourt opens. Just could never get past that hump. I think he won the U.S. once.
Yep, you're right. And I'm not holding my breath. I don't expect any American male tennis player anytime soon to be on the level of Roger Federer, or Rafael Nadal, or Novak Djokovic, or Andy Murray.
So here's a message from Sports Opinions that'll never get heard by either of these two guys, but Andre Agassi, Pete Sampras. Will you get some prodigies? Will you coach some dudes up? Will you do something? Because we need something in American tennis. That's my plea.
They might not be those kinds of guys, though.
It's unfortunate. And like you said, it's a very solitary sport, so there's a good chance they're not.
Right. They might not be those kinds of guys, and that's fine. I mean, you want a great American male player, yeah. Like you said, go watch highlights of Pete Sampras and Andre Agassi and get your fill there.
And even John McEnroe. He was a psycho, but God, the guy could play.
Oh, yeah, John McEnroe. Absolutely. John McEnroe is a great watch.
And he's so good on commentary. I love it when he's on commentary.
Oh, yeah, dude. The Opens are one of my most favorite things to watch in all of sports. So entertaining. Such great commentary. Yeah. I mean, I think McEnroe's up there with one of the best. I still think in any sports, the best commentators are just Mike Breen, JVG, Jeff Van Gundy, or the notorious JVG. And
Kevin Burkhart's fantastic. Kevin Burkhardt, Ian Eagle are great too.
Yeah, they're good, but I think you put those three together, I just don't think there's anything like it in any sports commentary.
Can we also talk real quick, though? One of my favorite people and to listen to in the tennis world, Martina Hingis, is really good on commentary.
Oh, very true. Very true.
You get insight from her when you're watching some of the women play. She gives you really good insight on pressure situations, exactly what that person should do. It's kind of Romo-esque what Tony Romo's doing right now, where she's talking about this person. Oh, they're really weak on their baseline play. They really need to start volleying and rallying up front. And all of a sudden, you see this person change their game, and the whole entire momentum changes. And it's like, whoa, she called that.
Yeah, no, she's great. You shout out Tony Romo. Tony Romo's been absolutely killing it. No wonder that dude retired. I get it now. He's awesome at his job. Also, I just want to say the guy who I wanted as the Yankees manager because he is so good. He's so good at talking about baseball, and he's so intelligent. It's Alex Rodriguez.
I would have loved A-Rod, and if we're talking about Tony real quick though, he finished he was finished with a 76 on his first ever tournament in Punta Cana in the first round. He's playing pro golf right now on the side because he's a scratch golfer. He finished with a 76 plus 5. As a normal human being that was a pro football player that just plays golf, like that's really good.
Yeah, Tony Romo's a good athlete, man.
Just a stud. And speaking of studs, I just had the privilege of doing a nice long podcast with one of my favorite people, Ryan. This was lots of fun, bro. I really want to thank you for coming on. Everyone needs to go listen to Popcorn and Cleats. Tell them again one more time where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find us on Twitter at Popcorn Cleats. You can find us on Facebook, Popcorn and Cleats, but that's with the and symbol. You can find me on Twitter at Ryan Fasciano, Fasciano, or type in popcornandcleats.com. That's what's spelled out A-N-D. And you get all our websites, all the different podcasts we're doing. We're always doing something.
All right, and again, I want to thank everyone for listening. Again, go find Sports Opinions on Twitter at SportsOpinion30. Find me at Twitter at AQuestaNBN. G-Money, thank you again.
No problem, man. It was great. Great talking to you and great. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. And you just got done listening to the Sports Opinions Podcast, episode 16. So long.